Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 100th episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. Look at us. We are here. Episode 100. CN, a hundred, a buck, a yardstick, 99 plus 1, 98 plus 2, 97 plus 3. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to name them all off, but this is the big one. The whole kit and caboodle, all of it. And, I would lie to say that I would be lying to say that I knew that I would get here because, I never really stuck to a lot of things, growing up. I've been one of them people that was, easy to get into things and easy to fall out of them just as quickly. And to be honest, the podcast is the most consistent that I've probably been with anything in my life. And I'm just very excited to have hit triple digits. Minimal weeks skipped. I think there was a total of 3 weeks skipped total in the last 2 years, and they've all been on holidays. I need some time to take off myself, but I mean, episode 100 is kind of a big deal, for me at least. I mean, for you guys, it's another listen on a Thursday, but I'm proud of it. I'm super proud of it. I'm proud of how it's grown. I'm proud of the people that I've been able to reach with this. I've been happy with the people that I've been able to get on this podcast. And honestly, I'm just super happy for the people that have been listening to me since. And that is you guys right now. If you're listening to this right now, I just want to take a second and say thank you very much. Obviously, I mean, I could have did it without you, but it wouldn't be worth as much. It's nice to be able to look at the numbers and see them consistently growing every single day. And, I mean, that's crazy to me. I'm just sitting here talking on a microphone with some cool people. And, it's cool that I have other people to, listen and support. But there's a couple people that I wanted to say thank you very much to, and the first and foremost is Buzzy Turek at Epicast Studios. He is. Buzzy taught me how to do all this stuff. He taught me how to do all this stuff 2 years ago. I've always been super thankful for him. He's basically like the Oracle. The crazy lady from the Matrix that just knows everything. Buzzy has been into this shit for a long time, and he's doing very good things with Epicast. And honestly, without him, I wouldn't know how to do any of this, and I wouldn't know how to put out a quality product, and I wouldn't know how to do everything. And I just wanted to take a second to recognize him and give my thanks to him for taking the time out to talk to me or to show me how to do things. I've talked about it on here before, but I think 5 years ago, me and my buddy Dylan started a podcast, and Buzzy was our producer. Buzzy was ahead of the game with all this stuff, and that was the beginning of the podcast era. We did that when there was no podcasts in the city, and that was big shit for us. Talk to big people, and I'm just super thankful that I know these people to be able to try and make myself better. So again, thank you very much for helping me out, Buzzy. And another person that I wanted to say thank you to is my wife, because my wife deals with so much shit with me recording this podcast. Almost every Monday, I kick her out of the house, or I banish her up to the dungeon, and I make her, I lock her away like Sally on the night before Christmas, and I'm like that weird dude in the wheelchair working on other projects down here. But I put Antoinette up in her room, and I just sit down here for a couple hours, and she can't be loud or talk all. She can't live normally. She's just locked up in our bedroom. But I really appreciate her for taking the time and realizing that I'm trying to do something a little bit different, and being super patient with me. most of the time. Sometimes she gets a little crazy, but that's understandable. You know what I mean? I do this shit every week, and I inconvenience her every week, but I'm thankful for her. So thanks, babe. But another person that is very important for me to say thank you with is Matt Christie and his wife Lauren down at Streets on Carson. These people are people that I've met through the podcast who I've became super close with. And Matt and Lauren run a great business down on Carson Street, and it's a great restaurant. They serve great food. And Matt was one of the first people to kind of stand behind me with all this stuff. You know, they're a proud sponsor of the podcast, and for someone to be like that, you have to believe in their product. And Matt's believed in what I was doing back then. He believes in what I do now, and that is much appreciated. I just wanted to take a second to recognize him as well. Anyway, so 100 episodes. There's no stopping in sight. I have a grip of awesome people in the lineup for these next few months, so we're going to have no shortage of episodes, but I am going to add some new shit to the podcast, kind of freshen it up a little bit. And one of the things I'm going to add is a new segment. If you're familiar with the podcast, we do an opening segment called What's in the Cup, whenever I remember. And then at the end of the podcast, we do an ending segment called Desert Island Questions, where I ask people a bunch of questions and make them pick a bunch of answers. And the new segment that I'm going to be adding is a segment called, I'm not 100% sure with the name, but I'm going to call it the Fishbowl. And that's basically going to be a bowl full of paper. And on each of these pieces of paper is a question submitted to the bowl from a previous guest. Yes, I've had 100 guests. Yes, I'd say I got about 70 signatures, or not signatures, but questions submitted, and I'm working to get the rest. But that's a good little bit of the beginning of the Fishbowl. So if you're listening to this and you've been on the podcast and you have not submitted a question, please slide into the DMs and throw me one. But that's going to be a great new segment. Some new shit that I'm going to be trying to implement with this next run of the podcast, you know what I mean? This next 100 episodes. I'd like to do more video podcasts. I'd like to implement more video. I'd like to create more content for the YouTube channel. I'm going to break the template on Instagram. I've decided that I'm going to break the template. If you follow the Instagram at I'll Call You Right Back, you'll see I usually post a picture of my guest, the cover art, and another picture of my guest. And it looks very nice. It's aesthetically pleasing, but, it limits what I want to do, and it limits the content that I could post, and it kind of limits, the creativity of the page. So I'm breaking that template. Fuck it. I'm excited about that, though, and I am excited for a lot of the people that I have coming up. Episode 100, I know I said that I was going to try to do something real big for it, but that plan fell through. I had someone lined up for it, but we just couldn't make it work. I kind of had bad luck with it because episode 100 was technically 4 or 5 days before Christmas. So, everyone's around the holidays. You're trying to make your way over to different people. It's hard to link up with people. And this guy's from LA. He came back here for a little bit, and we just couldn't make it work. But, I have faith that I'll be able to link up with him again in the future. I'm super happy about it, but I do have a great guest for this week because who says one guest is better than the other? You know what I mean? Just because they got more followers than the other? I think that's bullshit. This week, I talked to Alex Robba. Alex Robba is a cake decorator, a wedding cake decorator. I feel like that's underselling him. A wedding cake artist. I think that's better. But I came across Alex because my wife, she obviously does wedding makeup at Antoinette Medved MUA on Instagram if you're trying to check it out. But she does wedding makeup, and she sent me this dude's profile and was like, check out these cakes that this dude makes. And I started looking at them, and I was like, damn, they are super extravagant. It's basically a beautiful, tiered cake, but it has these floral arrangements around it. And then, the florals look dope in itself, and the cake looks dope in itself. But then I start looking for the detail, and I see that each of these little flowers that are on these cakes are handmade from sugar. And there's like, I mean, there's multiple, like over 50 buds on these little cakes. So like I start thinking, I'm like, this person is making every single one of these flowers for these cakes. And then I look into it a little bit more, and I see that Alex is 22. I see that he is from Uniontown, which is like, you know, kind of local to where I grew up. And I see that, you know, he had a pretty cool, you know, story on how he kind of got involved with it all. I did some research on his website. I looked at all these crazy wedding cakes that he's made. And then I seen that he was only 22. And I was like, damn, like, you know, he's out here killing it. You know, young person out here really like trying to, you know, live through themselves. And, he has a really cool story. I had a great time talking to him. I think it was super interesting learning on like, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't give the bakery end of things the respect it deserves. It's one thing to give respect to chefs and everything like that, but I mean, cooking, you could add, you know, like traditional like dinners and stuff like that. The majority of the time you could add certain ingredients that, you know, that spice it up. You want a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We'll see how this tastes, see how that tastes. But like baking is almost like a science equation. And to be able to make something like that as well as people do, you know, you have to have some respect for that. And these cakes, on top of being a good baker, you have to be an artist to be able to create these insane pieces. And like, if you look at any of the pictures that I posted, again, at I'll Call You Right Back, or at Alex Robba Cakes, you could see what I'm talking about. Like it's literally an art piece. You know, he's creating art pieces. And I think he had a really great way of describing it. You know, he said, I'm creating these cakes to reflect the couple that I am making them for. You know, I'm building these cakes for you, customly to you. And I thought that was super cool to think about because, you know, I got married a few years ago, and I remember thinking of like cakes, and I remember thinking like how incredible ours looked. And we didn't have anything. I mean, we didn't have anything super crazy, but then I'm like, and he's fucking making all these flowers by hand. And, you know, it kind of just blew my mind whenever I started looking at it, because like these cakes look wild. They have all this like floral design on it, and it turns out it's edible. And like, it's so tedious of a process for someone to be able to do this, make it look beautiful like that, and display it the way that it is. You have to have a certain level of passion that I mean, I would guess so, right? You would have to have a certain level of passion to be able to dive into things and do that. And I kind of wanted to talk to him about all that stuff, because I really don't know too much about, you know, the cake business. The most I know about the cake business is what I watch on Netflix. You know, there's a couple stupid shows on Netflix that you watch that you kind of look at, and one of them is like Nailed It. They remake these cakes, and I think you kind of realize watching these shows like how difficult the shit is. So I brought Alex in. He's episode 100. We had a fantastic conversation. I know that this is a long intro, but I wanted to give it a little bit of thanks to all the people out there listening to me. You know, it really means a lot for me. And if you want to do something to help me out, go over to my Instagram at I'll Call You Right Back. Hit the follow button. Go on Apple Podcasts. Hit subscribe under I'll Call You Right Back, and leave me a 5-star review, please. I mean, if you got nothing nice to say, then don't say it. But if you got something nice to say, by all means, gas me up a little bit. I'm out here doing work. I'm out here working hard. And I promise you, the guests that I got coming up they're unreal. I'm so happy for it, and I'm very, very excited to keep this ship. I was about to say rolling, but I guess I could work too. I mean, you roll on like the water, like the waves, so that could, whatever. Anyway, episode 100 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Alex Robba.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
telephone.
I'll call you right back podcast. Yeah, I mean, so my wife is a wedding makeup, and she came across your page, and she was like, check out this work, and I was like, geez, like, I looked at all your weddings, and she was like, these flowers are edible. And I was like, what? And she was like, I think they're made out of sugar. And I was like, really? So I started, I dove in a little bit deeper, and I saw that you get pretty crazy with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, then once I find like a subject to talk to, I just kind of deep dive into
that's what I kind of got, because you don't really have like a specific facet or anything. It's just kind of like people kind of doing interesting and crazy things from any kind of direction, from food to music or whatever. And it was really cool.
This is basically like, the podcast is basically my way to learn about things that I was always interested in that I never chose to do as a career. I was never a rapper. I'm friends with a lot of people who are super talented. So they come on and they'll talk to me, and I just, I see different people in the city that are just doing great things. And I wanted to give Pittsburgh a medium to kind of expose the masses to all the dope people in the city and around the city doing cool things. I mean, you don't really have an opportunity at our age now to randomly just sit down with someone for 2 hours and talk to them, or hour for however long of a time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't really have an opportunity to sit down and pick someone's brain. And I always use it as a perfect example. It's like, I talked to a funeral director. It would almost, I feel, would come off as creepy if I was just like sitting at a restaurant and I was like, so tell me about dead people and and how you preserve dead bodies. You know what I mean? So I use this to basically, talk to anyone that I find interesting about what they do and how they got to that point.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have a very interesting career.
Yeah, it's never a dull moment.
I bet. And I was reading your website. It said you've been into this since like you were 10.
Yeah, I mean, 10 is like when I kind of say I started directly into the cakes. I've always been in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That started just from the time when I was at my grandma's house, because before I went into grade school, I would stay with my grandma, my mom, as I call her.
Yeah.
But we were always in the kitchen baking together, and I always just loved it. It was my favorite thing to do together, and it was kind of like our pastime together.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and I was always drawn to the cakes. For sure. My aunt, no one in my family did it professionally, but my aunt, she did it just for fun. But every year around my birthday, she would make a cake for me. She just had all these old yearbooks from Wilton. It's a wedding cake company. We're a cake decorating company.
Yeah.
And they would just have yearbooks filled with different cake pictures and
yearbooks
recipes.
like cakes that they've done.
Yeah, almost like a big portfolio that had like instructional information on it. And it also had their own product line they sell now commercially, like Michael's and craft stores and everything.
Wow.
But I always would find one that I loved, and I would pick that, and then she'd get all stressed out because I'd always pick, the crazy 3-tiered dinosaur cake that had like an exploding volcano on top.
Yeah. And then you see all these things on Netflix and how nailed it and everything. And you see how I feel like it looks simple. It kind of looks simple to make a cake. And I watch these shows with my wife, and I'm just like, God, I don't even know what mine would look like. It would look like garbage.
Yeah.
But what caught my eye with you is like the flowers that you make and everything. And I don't even understand how that works. That's crazy. But before we get into all this stuff, I do an opening segment with everyone. It's called What's in the Cup. What's in the cup? So what's in your cup?
So this is LaCroix Mango.
LaCroix Mango.
Yeah, I'd almost consider it like my before 12 o'clock drink.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the White Claw. I love hard seltzer.
Yeah, White Claws are great.
Honestly, it's kind of like my guilty pleasure. Usually when I'm working on flowers or a cake in the afternoon or evening, that's usually my drink of choice to kind of keep the stress down and kind of keep things going.
I enjoy seltzer, so White Claws are pretty good for me. They're kind of dangerous, I feel.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
you can just rip them down and
Yeah, I can knock them down pretty quickly. That's usually my go-to.
I think it's so funny that like they were so like sought after that there was like a deficit in the United States of White Claws. Did you hear about that?
Oh yeah,
It's ridiculous.
yeah. I was one of the people freaking out. I was like texting all my friends in group messages, and I was like, "Oh my god, there's a White Claw shortage.
Yeah.
How am I going to cope? It's like mid-July. I need my White Claw."
What flavor is your favorite?
My favorite is ruby grapefruit. Actually,
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think I had like a not eucalyptus. No, maybe that was a Truly I had.
yeah.
They had Trulies have bizarre flavors. Like,
They have a few more.
ginger, weird stuff like
Yeah.
that. Ginger pomegranate or something. But I like pretty much all the seltzers, so I was down with LaCroix. But yeah, so I was reading your website. It said whenever you were 10, you got into it, and then it said what made me real curious is you said that you took some lessons at your local craft store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that that's so cool.
Yeah, so Michael's Arts and Crafts, they have a company there. Wilton is it's their premier cake decorating brand that they sell commercially, but they also offer just hobbyist courses they're like a month long, once a week for like 2 hours, and you just go in and they have an instructor and you learn from whatever. They have 4 different courses, at least they did when I was doing it when I was 10. I'm pretty sure they've built upon it then. But, we started with just your basic buttercream cakes, buttercream roses, and all the fundamental stuff for any entry-level cake decorator. And it was me when I was 10 years old, and it was probably like a class size of, I'd say, 10 or 12. It was me, then probably women. I wouldn't say anyone younger than probably 55. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was like a lot of retired there were a lot of school teachers who did
that would make
fun.
sense then. Retired ladies just learning.
Yeah, grandmas who were doing it for the grandkids.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and then there was my dad or my mom who had to take me to classes because I was 10. So
Yeah. Now, could I ask how old you are?
I am 22, actually. I just turned 22 in September.
22. Okay. So, I mean, like, you've been at it for a pretty long time. Like, 12 years is a long time to, I think it's always cool whenever I talk to someone who has had an idea of what they wanted to do for a long time. Like, I'm like, I like to call myself a typical person because I didn't know what I wanted to do in school coming up the whole entire time. I just never really paid attention to stuff. I didn't have an idea of what I wanted as a career until after high school, honestly. So anytime I talk to someone who kind of had an idea from the beginning, always fascinates me. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I was really fortunate in that regard because I've never really had a doubt or a concern for what I was going to be doing. I can't say that when I was 4, when I was 10, well, maybe when I was 10, but when I was really young, that I was saying I'm going to be a wedding cake artist. That wasn't my immediate thought, but I was always drawn to creativity, whether it was art, cake, painting, just any outlet that I could use a creative mind toward and kind of apply that kind of mindset toward, I was fascinated with.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I always knew something in that regard is what I wanted to be doing. And for me, my art medium was cake. That's how I expressed my artistic ability.
That's a good way. There. That's a good way. You could eat your artwork after, and you could put your money and get back into it. Now, you said it was mainly because of your grandmother. She baked a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's cool.
I mean, everyone in my family they're. No one professionally.
But you guys are in the kitchen.
Yeah, everyone's in the kitchen, very comfortable. So I grew up in the kitchen. It was always, for me, the kitchen was where the best memories were made.
That's awesome.
Because that's when I thought of holidays, Christmas together, Thanksgiving. It was always centered around the kitchen and bringing food together and making it for one another and the people that we love. And that's kind of how I like to think of it now. I do this to kind of show and present my love to other people. It's for a business, but I love what I do, and I just kind of hope that I can bring that to my clients and anyone who kind of comes into my work and is able to have it in whatever way that is.
I feel like you could tell that from the products that you put. Would you call them products? Your pieces?
I'd say, each is their own kind of entity. I don't even really look at them as, say, a bakery item because I think of them more as art pieces. Each one is unique, custom, tailored to the client or for whatever it is meant to be.
Yeah, and I feel like that it reflects how, passionate and how, how passionate you are about it, because like it looks so, you could tell that it's like super, super intricate. You could tell that like there's a lot of thought into how things are as far as like the placement, as far as like, and this is just, I'm just scrolling through your stuff and kind of realizing what I notice about it, because I'm not a baker. I'm not a food blogger or anything. So I don't really know anything.
Yeah.
I'm a lay person. So I was just looking at it and I'm like, damn, this black cake with these like shapes on there and these like hard lines and everything like that. And I read your description and you were saying that, it was different for you to like kind of focus your design of that cake to be, isometric shapes and hard lines and everything, because a lot of your cakes are like floral based. And it was cool to see that you have a variety of it.
Yeah, that one kind of opened up a lot of opportunity just in my artistic expression, and definitely for the client field, because I remember going into that tasting, the client, first thing they said was, so we don't really want flowers. We're going for like an Art Deco theme, very modern, kind of geometric. So my first concern was like, well, crap, they don't want flowers. That's right. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But I took it with optimism. I just didn't see it as something that was going to inhibit me, as something that I should use to motivate me and kind of push myself.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, a lot of my work is very asymmetric, not about perfect symmetry. I'd like all my work to be very organic.
Yeah.
And something that kind of evokes movement. And I almost like to embrace imperfection. Broken petals, imperfect lines.
Now, where does your love of flowers come from? You have to have a love of flowers for what you do, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was always drawn to, I would say, the elegance and the beauty of weddings, just from that young age. And yeah, from the cake standpoint, going through the yearbooks, I was always drawn to the big, tall, elegant wedding cakes. That was
masterpieces.
My favorite part. Yeah, I mean, I don't do celebration cakes. I don't do birthday cakes or anything like that.
Yeah.
I did them when I was younger and kind of going through the years and kind of learning, but they were never what my passion was in.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of learned that they were kind of doing those orders, kind of taking away from my passion for it. If I were to do those orders, I don't think I would have the same love for what I do, just because I can't put my full heart into those projects, just because it's not something that inspires me or something that I feel that I can even do to the best of my ability. I always feel like with what makes my cake special is that I give them all of my talent, 100% of my dedication. And with those orders, if I don't love them and I don't feel dedicated and that it's the best piece that I've ever put forward, then I think that I shouldn't be doing it, because there are better people in the industry who do want to do those types of orders.
That's very respectable.
Yeah. So I would rather, because people will come to me, do birthday cakes, this and that.
Yeah.
And I will. I always try to center things toward my styles. I've done birthday cakes, but they're still kind of more on that elegant, sophisticated scale.
Yeah.
Something usually with florals, something flowery. But I'd rather give someone a reference to a celebration cake artist or someone who does that.
Yeah, someone that's their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that makes sense. Now, from you being a young age and you understanding that you wanted to do something with food, how was your schooling coming up? Like did you I talked to. Do you know who Ryan Peters is?
Yeah, I did listen to that podcast.
So I spoke to him, and I thought it was interesting to hear about like the tech side of being a chef and everything like that. Did you go through that path?
No, I actually didn't. So I was, as much as I loved the art side of the kitchen for the cakes, I loved baking and cooking. Baking for the most part, I was more pastry driven. I loved the precision and the precise nature of it, and the fact that you could, formulate a recipe in something that was meant to create a calculated end result versus cooking is very different than pastry and baking. Cooking is about a little bit of this and adding as you go and kind of just following your instincts, where baking is calculated, precise,
which scientific.
Yes, precisely, which was the kind of ironic as much as I am artistic and creative, I'm very...
You like constraints a little bit, too.
I love constraints, in that regard. And in the interior of the cake, I'm all about, precise measurements and perfectly formulated recipe, even lines, even cake layers, all of that.
I like that.
Outside.
I like that process of it because with that calculated process, you're going to have a great foundation to work with if you do it correctly from the beginning.
And I think that once you have that foundation of the precision, that's when you can then use that as a launching point to get creative.
Yeah.
Because you have the foundation and you know what it takes to create a successful recipe.
Absolutely.
Or what are the limits within certain mediums and all of that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now in high school, I mean, like schooling, did you do tech classes or was it just regular schooling up to graduation?
Yeah, so I didn't do any VOTech classes.
Okay.
Just because at that point I was kind of beyond that level, and what they were kind of guiding students toward for their food program wasn't really the direction that I was going in. I wasn't looking to have a storefront or be a baker or do those more bakery style items.
Yeah.
But I kind of supplemented what benefited me in high school with art classes. I did tons of ceramics.
Oh, I loved it. I love ceramics so much. It was fantastic. You could tell that you have like a sculptor.
Yes.
Like a sculptor. What would you call that? I don't know. You have a feel with that.
Yeah, I love three-dimensional art. I always have. Even from a young age, I always loved playing with Play-Doh. At my grandma's house, we would make it together, and I would usually then kind of make like little tiered cakes out of Play-Doh. But I loved the fact that it was something, like a three-dimensional art form that wasn't flat lay like a painting. I later in my years did kind of draw onto painting, but the fact that I was able to create something in 3D right before me, and ceramics I was really drawn to. I think it's present in my work for sure, I would say.
You could definitely tell. I think at a younger age though, it's easier to appreciate something that gives depth rather than just like a painting, because like whenever you're younger, parents don't want to just give their kids like a whole ream of paint and like an easel because it's going to end up everywhere. So like, we had Lincoln Logs, we had Legos, we had things like that where we could build three-dimensional objects. Yeah. And me personally, like I was never a huge fan of drawing and everything like that, maybe because I suck at it. But I always loved like the three-dimensional end of it. Yeah. Like we had erector sets, things like that. It popped into my head. I'm curious to know, you're a little bit younger than me. I'm 29. I had a home ec class in my school, and it was cool. I mean, like we did a couple things. I remember we did like some classwork because we only had it like 2 days a week. I think we had like classwork, and then like we would cook some meals. But I feel like we didn't get too in depth with like cooking, and I've always enjoyed it. Did you have a home ec class?
We did. I didn't take any when I was in high school. During middle school, it was one of our like required prerequisite classes.
That's whenever I had it. Was in middle school.
So I took it then, and it wasn't anything advanced. It was like partially classwork for one part of the week. Then the next part of the week would be in the kitchen in the classroom. But it was very remedial kind of stuff.
Yeah, very remedial.
Like very Snickers and pudding mix with Cool Whip. Just kind of. Yeah, I mean, we were 13 at that point. So
that makes sense too.
Not trying to get us playing with flames too much, but yeah,
that's true. It was always interesting to work with. I think it was also like a team building exercise because like you have your groups that are you're placed with, and you gotta make a meal with them. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. But now, besides for cakes and everything, like what were your hobbies growing up besides for the artistic type things?
So I was a pretty good student. I graduated within the top 10% of my class from high school.
You enjoyed class and everything.
I did to a certain extent. I was not by any means like a nerd. I loved English. I took AP Literature and Language. I loved that side of it. I loved writing, especially like the creative writing. Yeah, just because I was able to fabricate another way I could use creativity in literature.
I hated like book reports and things like that. I liked creative writing way more, just because there was no boundaries of it. If you're writing a research paper, like it's so stuffy feeling. It feels like you're constricted. You got to cite everything, and I didn't want nothing to do with that. But I liked the creative end of it.
Yeah, I definitely liked literature far more than I did the language side of it.
Yeah.
I guess I liked language just for the structural knowledge that came with it and the precision in that nature for proper grammatics, but it wasn't something that I was over the moon for. And I liked some math classes when I was in high school. I loved algebra and geometry.
That's what I loved.
Just because I loved equations and that I could formulate an answer and then have a reasoning behind my work and all of that. And I think it just kind of played into the precise nature of what I came to do with cakes. I loved chemistry, which I knew at that point was important to me just from baking. So I was kind of
that was my least good class. I think I got a D in chemistry. Maybe it was our teacher, but I loved physics. Mm-hmm. I remember doing well in physics. Things like that, Rube Goldberg projects and everything. Yeah. I don't know. School was weird to think about, but I often ask people about school because it's easy to kind of get a feel from someone, whether they're like, I didn't like high school. I was just kind of, I just kind of kept to my own, but it kind of tells someone's story with the way they explain themselves through it. But were you like a sports guy or anything like that?
Not overly. I mean, I did soccer my first 2 years of high school. That was more because they needed people. And they were like, hey, go play sports. And
where did you grow up at?
So I'm not from the Pittsburgh area. I'm just about an hour and a half south of Pittsburgh. I'm just outside of Uniontown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with Pittsburgh. I've been coming up here. So I'm within the region, but all my business clientele is from Pittsburgh. But yeah, that southwestern Pennsylvania region is right where I am from. I went to Albert Gallatin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm not exactly a product of that school for the most part. They kind of get a bad rap, but
it's all right. You can't.
They had their good points.
You got their good points of it.
Yeah.
Now, in high school, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do after high school?
Yeah, I did. I would say until about my junior year or even the beginning of my senior year, I was like, I'm going to be a cake artist. I'm going to do wedding cakes. And then I went through I would say an early life crisis where I was like, oh, I don't want to do this because that's not practical. And I wouldn't say it wasn't practical, but it was because at that point in time, I was taking orders. I mean, that was almost my side job in high school.
Oh, you were doing that in high school?
Oh, yeah. I mean, not to the scale or anything that I am now, but it was mostly friends of family or people who had heard of me, word of mouth. But it was mostly like celebration cakes, birthdays, anniversaries, not really the stuff that I want to do now. Very few weddings.
How old were you when you got your first wedding gig?
Wedding gig? I would say I was 15, yeah.
Really?
I was a freshman in high school, and it was my mom. It was for one of her work colleagues. Yeah, she works for
That's
WVAQ,
really awesome.
Their radio station. But it was a smaller wedding, but it was like a 3-tiered fondant cake. There weren't sugar flowers on it. They did fresh flowers, but yeah, that was my first kind of taste at a wedding cake.
Wow.
I mean, I'd done a few bridal shower cakes before, but that was
the
first
went well?
one. Yeah. I mean, they didn't fall over or anything.
Have you ever had a cake fall over?
I don't think I have. I have had a cake.
Knock
on wood. I did have a cake crack slightly. It was a family cake.
Yeah.
And I was, I think, 14 at the time, 13 or 14. But it was my cousin's bridal shower cake.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I had delivered the cake fully assembled, because normally I would
tear them off.
Yeah, I would just transport them on separate tiers, but assembled them at the venue. But it was a 3-tiered bridal shower cake, and for some reason my parents thought it was a good idea for us to assemble it and then drive it to it, because we were driving it to Greensburg for the bridal shower, just about an hour. So that's a longer-ish delivery.
That's a good bit of a drive.
Yeah, and at that time, my cakes weren't stable to the point that they are nowadays. So it was me sitting in the back seat. We'd put like a wooden skewer all the way through the interiority of the cake just to hold it in place. It was on dowels and everything, but it was rocking back and forth, and just the weight of it started to kind of crack the bottom tier, and it was like pulling back on one side. And then it was probably, I would say, like 40 minutes into the drive. I'm like, hey, Mom, I think we need to pull over. It's kind of falling apart. And she was like, why didn't you tell me this 20 minutes ago?
Oh, my.
But then from that point, we just took it apart, got it to the venue. The crack side then became the back side of the cake. So there's always a back.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
When did the flowers come into play?
the flowers came into play. I think they kind of all started. They all began even from those initial courses from the buttercream. And then when I learned the fondanted cakes was when I kind of really drew my passion toward that kind of art side of it. But then over the years, I did it, on my own, just kind of playing around. But then when I trained professionally from pastry school, they actually brought in a sugar flower artist or a wedding cake artist, a world-renowned one, actually, Maggie Austin. I would consider her my mentor in all of this. She kind of really framed what my style is now and kind of brought me into my own at this point.
What was it? No. L'Académie de Cuisine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to butcher it.
No. Yeah. So
is that now in school is that where you wanted to go?
Not at first. So one of the biggest things for me, it was kind of like me being a bit of a child and impractical, but I was kind of avoiding going to culinary school just because I wanted that kind of traditional college experience.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the college kid and go to the parties and just kind of let loose for once because I had always been mature for my age.
Yeah.
But I wanted to that was very important to me at that time anyway.
Yeah.
That I was going to be able to just have that normal education. I thought it was very important. I thought I wouldn't be able to do this unless I had that traditional 4-year degree program, that I wouldn't make it or that I would be less valid for not going for that for some reason. Now, in hindsight, I'm very happy that I did not do it, just first and foremost because it costs an exuberant amount of money.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
really
crazy
is.
to think that I talk about this on here all the time. It's crazy to think that by the time we're in sometimes even 8th grade, but 9th grade, they're like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life?
Yeah.
You got to start thinking about it. You're going to need to know what you want to do in the next 3 years because you got to start preparing. And you're like, dude, I don't even know I don't even know anything.
Yeah.
I don't know what I like, what I dislike, what is even out there. And schools don't do that well of a job of preparing you for, alternate outcomes. It's always, go to college, you got to be a doctor or a teacher or an engineer. People don't tell you all the other stuff that is a very, very extreme possibility that is going to be less of an expense in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I don't know. But I suffered with that too. Like my parents, you're going to go to school, like pick something you want to do. You're going to go to school. And I went to school for elementary ed and special ed because, that was always something that I was, I could always do. I was always good with people and kids. And I hated college. I hated school my entire life. I liked going there and being a part of almost going to like a clubhouse with all your friends and everything and having to do this bullshit together. But after that, I was just like, man, I didn't want to do that. But yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but once I finally got back on the cake train, I was like, okay, I know this is what I want. I'm just being kind of grumpy about it right now.
Yeah.
So that was actually the first school I did tour. L'Académie de Cuisine. It was in Gaithersburg, Maryland. They're closed now, unfortunately.
Are they?
I was actually the last graduating class.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they just didn't have enough students coming in to pay for their overhead, and they were just having financial issues. And it was a shame because they had the 7th best culinary program in the States, but the 3rd best pastry program.
Wow.
Yeah, they had 2 separates, culinary and pastry.
How long was it?
So it was a 6-month in-school program. It was divided into 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2, which were each 3 months each. And they were Monday through Thursday for the first phase, then Tuesday through Friday. The first one was 7 to 2, then 8 to 3 in the second semester. But then you did a 6-month paid externship.
Oh, that's good paid at least.
At any location, they had certain requirements for whatever venue it was. It could have been a restaurant, a bakery, cafe,
that
hotel.
they worked with.
Yeah, they had recommended ones that they would recommend to students within the area, or good schools, or not schools, but just good locations that they had success with in the past, and prior students had gone there. But you weren't restricted by the location. You could have gone across the country to the West Coast as long as it was in the curriculum that they were a from scratch kitchen and they would pay you, and there were a few other things, but you had to have like a chef mentor. They were all applicable to be externship sites for you.
Now, whenever you went to this place, did you have to pick like a lane that you were going to be in, or was it just kind of like that was the place for pastries and cakes?
Yeah, I mean, we actually learned it all. We learned pastry across the boards. The first semester was just your fundamental skills, nice skills, scaling, kind of just the nitty-gritty skills that you need as a baseline for all the advanced technique.
Yeah.
But we learned everything from viennoiserie and laminated doughs.
What
cakes,
is wait? What did you was the first word?
Viennoiserie,
What
like
is that?
croissants,
Oh.
croissants, danishes, laminated doughs.
Viennoiserie.
Yeah, that's the French term for it.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, you learn plenty of French while you're there.
I bet. It all sounds so fancy.
Far from fluent, but you can kind of fool people now and then, at least in the pastry realm of it.
And did you find that end of it difficult, like the croissants and everything, like the viennoiserie?
Viennoiserie, yeah, I would say that was the most difficult. I mean, I don't want to say that I was the best at everything, but I had a prior knowledge just from research and over the years, kind of having that exposure.
Yeah.
And being as involved in that kind of world as I could, just from television to researching recipe books.
Now, what are your peers like there? Are they older, younger, or is it all ages?
I think I was the youngest, aside from like one other girl, but most students from that going into the academy, a lot of them were career turnarounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of them, for the most part, in my class, they were late 20s up to, I would say, 40s, yeah, like
Wow.
late 30s.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, because just from the program, they really didn't take in a lot of straight out of high school students because they didn't think that a lot of them were dedicated enough or really had their head set on the work that they're going to have to undergo during the schooling and be successful. Just
Yeah, it got to be crazy regimented. Like Ryan Peters talking about just like, first of all, I know the kitchens are insane. I don't even understand how people could be under that much pressure and cook this food and serve it hot still and serve it how it's supposed to be, but it's nuts. But for him to talk about like he said he walked in the one day and the guy was like, we shave every day here, and he had to go.
Yeah, and he had to go shave.
Like, Jesus, I don't know if I could go back. I feel like I would be like terrified.
Yeah,
like what? But but before we get to, I don't want to forget. Now, in high school, before you did all this, were you working in any places, like any restaurants or anything, or was it basically you were doing your own business, basically?
Okay, so part-time jobs. I didn't work in any bakeries or retail, anything like that. I was in the service industry. I was a server at a restaurant during high school just for a little bit, just because I saw myself making more money doing that.
Absolutely.
Versus working in a bakery, and I was trying to play it smart for the most part.
That's smart.
Yeah, but back to school. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty intense. We started the day at 7, but 7 meant you had to be there
ready
no
to
later
go.
than 6:30.
Yeah.
Because you had to prep for everything to start at 7. So if we started with a recipe right at 7 o'clock, the students did all the prep work. So we did all the scaling of ingredients and got everything ready for the day to begin. And my school was in Gaithersburg, Maryland, which is about 40 minutes north. Yeah, like, let's see, northwest of DC. But it's in Montgomery County, but traffic was horrendous down there.
Yeah.
Especially in the mornings. I had to get up for school at 4 a.m. for the first 3 months.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I'd sit in traffic for like an hour and a half, and it was only like a 45-minute drive. And the first day, or the second day of school, I should say, going in, I was like, oh, it'll be great. I'm going in, leaving at like 5 a.m. There's not going to be anyone on the roads. And it was like bumper to bumper traffic. It's like, oh my gosh, where are all these people coming from? Why are they all out this early in the morning? But yeah,
that's crazy.
It very much wore down on me. I was falling asleep in class every now and then, but
that had to be rough.
And the work toll was a lot. I mean, because we would do anywhere from like 7 to 20 recipes a day or more, depending on what we were doing that day. But then all the recipes in class, we would take our kitchen notes, but then we would have to go home and type them in proper recipe format. That had
Oh, wow.
all the ingredients listed, detailed instruction, yielding, storage, all that stuff.
Jeez.
It was especially difficult, not so much difficult, but it was just very intricate for the pastry side because everything was so much more precise, and
Yeah.
they were extremely particular about the recipe development and the writing. And that was like 30% of our grade, our recipe books.
Wow. I never thought about that. That's true.
And it just showed how well you were retaining what you were learning in class, because they were putting the information on the board, but you had to be a good note taker and had to be listening in order to get what you needed to from
That makes
their
sense, too.
instruction. Yeah.
Instead of just in one ear and out the other, you had to be able to put it from your mind to paper.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, but I also the biggest thing I loved about my school, there was about 80% hands-on. So we had the recipe development and the bookwork, mostly for references and like intro to certain subjects. Like when we would get into laminated doughs or chocolate, there'd be like 1 or 2 days where we'd just do the bookwork and kind of.
What does laminated mean?
Laminated is just folding it. So laminated
okay.
dough is just layers of a lean dough alternating with butter, and you have to do it when it's very cold so it doesn't melt or get pushed into the dough and dissolve. Because then once it goes into the oven, the cold temperature from the butter and the dough creates steam, and then it produces these flaky layers. So that's why croissants have this flaky texture, and it's not a bready texture. It's because you're actually kind of creating these steam pockets that will push apart each individual layer of laminated dough.
Wow.
Yeah, with croissants you have to do you can do 6 folds, and each time you do a fold you create like 3 new layers. Then you multiply that each time, so by the time you're done with the croissant you have like 720 alternating layers of butter and dough. So yeah.
Wow,
it's very scientific when you break it down to that level.
This is exactly my point. It's like people just go to a bakery and just grab a croissant. They don't even think about it. And it's like, that's fascinating to me. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, laminated doughs and chocolate were definitely the 2 most intricate courses that we had to cover during our time there. But yeah, I loved it. I loved being able to just get into the kitchen and learn and do it yourself, because that was the best way I learned.
Yeah, it's hands-on.
Yeah. So that was my...
Do you mess things up in school?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you do the best that you can and best of your ability at that time, but you're still there to learn. If you're not making mistakes, then you're not really learning.
Yeah, you're not progressing.
And even if I would say, even when I would do a good job and would get what they would consider an A at that time, you can still be built upon. I think
Absolutely.
you should use that as a baseline for what you can do to improve next time, or reflect on and say, okay, I did this well, so I'm going to keep this in mind next time, but how can I, work to make this a better product in the end, or what can I do to work more efficiently or cleaner?
Yeah. How do you keep such a petite figure if you're doing all these I feel like if I would be making all this stuff, I would have to eat it all.
Yeah, so I mean, we tasted. That was one of the first things they said on the first day, that just to keep in mind that we're here to taste. You're not here to have a 4-course meal every day, even though you did, because for lunches, the culinary students would actually, their day's work was what they fed to the entire school. So,
oh really?
Yeah, all the pastry students and the culinary students, our lunch break was what their day's work was.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so each day we got like a different French.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what happens to all the food that you got? I mean, if there's numerous students and they're all making, there's 50 cakes there. Like, what happens to them all?
Well, we taste them for one, give them out to as many people as we can, but we weren't allowed to take anything off site. They used to be able to, but something happened one time. I think it was like a dairy issue. Someone got sick.
Yeah.
Mostly storage.
That makes
storage
sense, then.
method on their end.
That's probably way smarter.
Yeah. Ever since then, they just didn't want to deal with it. So yeah, they just keep it in the school. But then at the end of the day, if we can't use it the next day or the day after, they just throw it away.
Yeah.
Because they can't resell it.
Jeez.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, back to keeping a petite figure, I was very adamant about making sure I did not turn into like the 400-pound French chef.
Yeah.
That was like my ultimate nightmare going into school. I was like, I can't be that. I have to maintain my fitness. So every day after school, I would go to Planet Fitness for like 2 hours, kind of like de-stress. Then I'd go home, do my homework, try and get it done in full, then be in bed by like 9 o'clock since I had to get up at 4 a.m. the next day.
Wow. So you were pretty regimented for a while down there. That's, I don't know. It'd have to be a crazy. I feel like that school would be fun. Like I feel like going there, you would have a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm not really. I wouldn't consider the thing like I work at a company and I design piping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not really fun for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not fun. It's work. I tolerate it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like it's not what I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But school was not. The only thing I loved about school was whenever we had projects to do, and it was hands-on.
Yeah.
Everything else was so hard for me to like retain. I just am a hands-on person, I guess.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. I mean, just going through kind of that phasing out of, you know, graduating from high school and kind of figuring out what you're doing next.
Yeah.
I just kind of threw myself headfirst into pastry school, and it was my favorite thing to do. As hard as it was, as tired as I was through all of it.
Rewarding, I'm sure.
I was always excited to be there every day. I was just so passionate. I was so eager to learn and just to get as much as I could from that, because I knew I would never be able to go through that again.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was
That's
truly
great.
a blessed experience.
Now, while you're in school there, are you still hustling cakes on the side?
Not so much, just because I was 3 hours from home. I was living with my aunt at the time. She lived in Maryland, so from her house to school was like 45 minutes. Then from her house to where I live in Pennsylvania at the time, it was 3 hours.
Huh. Yeah.
So, I mean, I still had gotten inquiries, and if I could take them like on an extended weekend off or something, or if I was coming home, I would try to, but I really wasn't taking many orders. I did have another part-time job at that time. I was serving again, so I would serve like Thursday through Sundays as much as I could, because I had to support myself, pay for gas and everything, all my living expenses too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was kind of my job at that point in time.
Now, you're doing homework, I guess? Are you cooking yourself at your aunt's while you're...
Yeah. I was cooking as much as I could. I was trying to eat healthy outside of school, just because every day in school we were eating like 4 courses of French cuisine and foie gras and French pastries. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be able to balance this out.
I would go haywire in there. I would just be getting... I love baked goods. I'm a big baked good guy. Mm-hmm. But so after you're done with school and you're like I read a little bit about me on your website. Now, in your process of school coming towards the end, what's the process of them to kind of like place you with the designated place you wanted to go?
So a lot of that work was put on us. They gave us the references for a lot of the local areas and what places we might be interested in. They gave us recommendations based upon what we were leaning towards, because by the time we were in phase 2, they're asking us to, kind of delegate what part of the industry we would like to be in, or kind of at least for the externship, learn about and kind of dive into. Because for the most part, you don't have the luxury of being able to do all of it every day like we were in school.
Yeah.
If you were in a restaurant, you were doing plated desserts and restaurant items, or if you're going to a bakery, you're doing all those bakery items, or hotels were kind of like the level playing field where you kind of had more freedom to do all of those things.
Yeah.
But we had externship advisors, so they would bring in a lot of chefs and restaurateurs from places that were looking for externs. We're currently taking externs from that school, and we would prepare stuff for them. We would have days where we'd kind of do like Chopped-esque style kitchen challenges, and they'd put us into teams with culinary. And they would basically be the judges.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and then we were able to kind of network a lot through those events.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but then we had to go on stages, is what the industry term is. So a stage is basically a working interview. So we had to do at least 3 before we would pick an externship site. And you just go in, say I did one at a bakery or a cake shop. So I went in, they'll just have you do kind of remedial tasks or just ask you to do things, whatever they would like to, put their faith in you. But it's just to kind of get a feel for how you work and how you are in that workplace situation instead of, sitting down.
That's pretty
just
cool. It's
so
cool that they do that because that kind of, some people might not interview well just in a room, but they could be, killing it in the kitchen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's cool that they do that. I never knew about that.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard thing. And it's not just for schools. A lot of people who are just trying to learn in the food industry will stage at a restaurant or hotel, and they can do this for months on end. Like one of our pastry instructors, she had staged at a Michelin star restaurant in New York for 3 months one summer. And it's basically just you're an unpaid intern, but you're getting paid in your experience and the knowledge that you're pulling from it. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we had to do 3 stages, and then they asked us to kind of do a report on each one. Weigh the benefits and the cons.
Was the Blue Duck Tavern one of your stages?
Blue Duck Tavern was my last stage, actually.
Okay.
So my first stage, I'm trying to think. I think it was at Fluffy Thoughts Bakery. It was a cake shop. It's in McLean, Virginia, and I actually loved it.
Yeah.
But I felt too comfortable going there.
Yeah.
My thing for my externship was that I didn't want to just pursue cakes because at that time, I wanted exposure to as much of the industry as I could.
Yeah, more tools in your toolbox.
Yeah. Like at that time, I was really into plated desserts for restaurants, showpiece work.
Oh, I love looking at all that stuff. It's crazy. I mean, now whenever they're teaching you that, is it just a class where they're like, you're just kind of, make it look nice, set it here. Like, how do they tell you how to plate things?
I mean, they give you like the baseline fundamentals.
Yeah.
First, we started with the traditional styles of plating, and it's an ever-changing art form. It's art in itself, so every season's different. Just
they all look like sculptures. And I look at these, half of the time I'm looking at these shows on Netflix, and I'm just like, how the hell is this even possible that they do this? And it just looks wild. And I didn't know if it was more or less just like, I guess they would just have some constraints that you would learn, like some rules you would learn, and you would apply it your own way.
Yeah, there was definitely more of the foundation they gave you to follow by, and then from there be creative in school, because they wanted you to understand why you may do things a certain way, what is going to aesthetically, if we're just talking aesthetics, what is most pleasing to the eye, and kind of by those guidelines you would follow, and then kind of throw creativity on top of it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but that was kind of how the school in general was structured.
And you enjoyed that, like the plating and
I loved the plating. I just loved the artistic expression in it because, the plate is just a free canvas, and you're painting and you're creating a piece of art with food. Yeah,
that's really cool. If you go to a nicer restaurant and they bring you out something and you're just like, geez, I don't even want to eat it. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
And you almost feel obligated to take a picture of it, but then you're that guy in that restaurant just taking a picture of your food, like act like you've been here before or something.
Yeah, for the most part, you never want to be that guy, but at the same time, you kind of also want to be striving to have people doing so.
Absolutely.
You eat with your eyes first, so
absolutely,
that's the first thing I do.
It looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. Have you ever got into no, you're very good at sculpting. Do you ever do any of the chocolate sculpting? Do you ever see on? I basically see all my shit on Instagram, and I see people building towers and these crazy sculptures just out of chocolate.
Yeah,
I'm just like, that's insane.
Yeah, I actually grew a passion for chocolate work in school. It's one of the other things that I still keep up with until this date.
I saw those were they cordial cherries that you made?
Yeah, I don't really do it too much for clients, but it's just kind of like my side passion aside from wedding cakes, because doing that now as a profession, it can get a little rudimentary.
Yeah.
It's a little more stressful. But chocolate's just kind of like my escape zone.
It looked awesome.
For the most part, yeah.
It looks cool to see that. And all the, you can get as fancy as you want with it. I go to them I Made It markets.
Yeah.
You know what those are? I always see these chocolates there that look like they look crazy. They have like crazy artistic paintings on them.
Yeah.
Just real wild looking. I'm just like, geez, like I thought that they were I don't know why, but I thought that they were them like rocks that you put in the freezer and then you put in like a drink.
Oh yeah.
And the lady was like, no, it's chocolate. And I was like, what? But it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I did a few chocolate showpieces in school, and then in my externship at Blue Duck Tavern. That was one of the main reasons I went there, just because I was able to do plated desserts, sculptural work. I was able to do wedding cakes in my time, high tea. I kind of was able
What's high tea?
Just like afternoon tea.
Oh, okay,
They did
yeah.
have a tea service every Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I loved that side of chocolate, that I could kind of turn it into just art versus food, and that kind of drew that gray area between the food and the art, and I was able to play a lot more.
Have you ever been to Daffin's?
I have not been.
Do you know what that is?
I've never heard of that.
Daffin's is up. What place is it by? It's up by a place called Cranix. I can't remember the area, but it's a chocolate place. They sell amazing chocolate, but in the back they have like a chocolate world, and it's just a room where they built these crazy sculptures out of chocolate, and they've been there for years, and it smells like it. But it's just a sculpture that they've had there, but like they always kind of switch things up, and those are the only things that I've ever seen in person where I was like, holy shit, that's a whole Ferris wheel made out of chocolate. And it was, I don't know, it just it's pretty interesting to me to like see how that I immediately get inquisitive about things. I'm like, how is this made? Like how do you make things look like this? How are those flower petals, like how do you make them and they don't break, and you're like, you're adding this color. And I saw a photo with all these paint jars full of dust, and I'm just like, geez, like this is insane to me. It's just cool to learn about someone else's career from someone that's in depth in it, who's submersed themselves in everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, from my standpoint, I understand how everything of what I do works, and I don't really see the smoke in the mirrors of it. To me, it is what it is.
Exactly.
It's a process that I go through, and to me it makes sense. But yeah, from the onlooker, it's all this mystery and just creating magic out of sugar.
It's mystery.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's mystery. It's interesting to learn about. Now, how long did you work at the Blue Duck Tavern?
I worked there just over a year. So our externships only had to be 6 months in length. And I thought I was going to move back home following it, just because at that time I was getting a little homesick. Going into the externship, I loved it when I stashed, but once I went in rolling and was actually working, I kind of had like a panic attack, just because all of a sudden it wasn't fun anymore. It was a job, and I was stressed, and I was still kind of getting a feel for the kitchen and my boss, and I just didn't want to mess anything up. And it was just a very different experience, because in school it's okay to make a mistake. Your mistakes are what you learn from, but in the work setting,
that's a strike.
You need to do this, and it needs to be right every single time. And my boss, my chef, Erin Reed, she was a titan, but I love her to death. I kind of credit her for bringing me to this point, for a lot of what I've learned from her.
Absolutely.
She made me think about food in a completely different way than I had then. I went in to the hotel. I was very aesthetic forward, but she kind of pulled me into the idea of, everything has to have a reason, and, it doesn't always have to be thousands of layers of milfoil and gold leaf and all of this and all the frou-frou,
Yeah.
Her passion for the industry was nostalgia. That was kind of her gimmick on it.
Yeah.
Kind of taking familiar things that people knew from their childhood and were special, and they could draw almost a relationship to, but then elevating it.
Their own relationship in their own way.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That was her mindset and her mentality towards all of her desserts. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And it just kind of made me think about things a little bit differently. And it gave me a new appreciation for the industry and what I did.
Oh, I bet.
But first, I think I cried a few times in the walk-in.
Yeah.
Those first few days, just because she was very tough going in. Everything was perfect, but I also saw a lot of myself in her, and I think she saw that in me as well.
Yeah.
Just because she and I kind of thought almost too alike. It was all about precision and loving what you do, and a lot of people just didn't get that, and they didn't get why we were so passionate about what we would do and why we were so fussy, and it was just because we wanted everything to be perfect because that was what we loved, and to us that was everything. And if you're going to spend every day going and dedicating your time away from family and friends and your personal life, then
make it count.
Yeah, you don't half-ass it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, but her and I then grew a really close relationship together. I was kind of like her go-to.
Yeah.
She trusted me with all the wedding cakes for the hotel, and it was a luxury hotel in Georgetown. I mean, it was a lot of responsibility that she entrusted me with.
That's really cool.
I was forever grateful for that, and she gave me, creative freedom when we did dessert buffets for holidays, to do showpieces.
That's awesome.
Just because she knew that was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
They weren't doing that before. But
well, you seem like someone who is, motivated for growth, motivated to push the envelope a little bit for what you do. Like, you want to, from just talking to you a little bit, it seems that you want to like keep progressing in your, in your profession, and that you're not just, complacent where you are. You're not just content doing the same old thing. And that's cool. Like, that's how you, I feel like that's how you could tell the people that are gonna, like they always say the cream rises to the top, and I don't know. It's interesting to, I've talked to, you're going to be my 100th episode.
Oh, wow.
You're going to be my 100th episode.
I got to make it a good one.
So this is fantastic already, but like I talked to 100 people, and, it's interesting to hear how their minds kind of like take in consideration what they do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like kind of, hear how they process what they do and hear how they talk about what they do. Mm-hmm. Like I've definitely talked to people who you could tell that they exude a love for what they do. Like my favorite episode I've ever recorded is a guy named Kevin Drobish. It was in October. He works at PIMS, Pittsburgh Institute of Mortuary Science, and he heads up one of these restorative art classes, and he's kind of like he's a bigwig there, but he was just some dude who grew up skateboarding, who was a musician, who rebranded his career whenever he went to a funeral, and it was for his grandmother or grandmother, and they weren't taken, the people didn't take as much care of her as you should have. Mm-hmm. So he was just like, I could do this better, and just completely flipped his world upside down. And like, you could tell just from talking to that guy that like, that's what he's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. That's what it sounds like with you.
Yeah.
Now Blue Duck Tavern and you are eventually disintegrated, and you moved back up to Southwest PA.
Yeah. So that was, what was that? That was about June 2018, 2019.
That's all right. I don't ever remember dates.
Yeah, it was 2018. Yeah. So I was on great terms with the restaurant, the hotel. I had gotten promoted a few months in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was coming to the point where I was starting to feel like I was getting all that I was going to be able to take from them, and I was feeling like I was starting to become complacent there.
Yeah.
I just felt like I wasn't learning as much as I needed to at that point. And I could have probably stayed there longer and have been fine, but I didn't feel like I was going to get as much as I needed to versus leaving and kind of pushing myself to learn more. So that was kind of my reason behind leaving. It was other things.
So what, you're 20 years old when this happened?
Yeah, I was 20 years old.
See, like I feel like you got to have a pretty good, you have a pretty good outlook on things if you're able to tell that when you're 20.
Yeah.
People are 20 years old and like they're just, I'm here now, I'm working here now. Mm-hmm. To be able to like think that and be able to realize, from an outsider's point of view, this place sounds like all prestigious and very, very nice. Mm-hmm. And it could have been just a good gig to just keep it. To just kind of break away from that is, that's respectable.
Yeah, and it was a tough decision, but I knew that it was going to benefit me. I had originally only planned on staying there the 6 months, but then it was entirely because of the relationship I had with Erin and just everything that I felt I was getting out of what she was able to provide me that I stayed on for another like 8 months.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was still commuting from where I lived with my aunt, and it was about an hour.
That's a beast.
Yeah, it was about an hour and 15-minute commute from Maryland to DC, and that was in good traffic terms. I was going in, if I was working the line, because I started working in the restaurant, I was just the line pastry cook, so I did all the plating. I'd go in at 3, and dinner service would end at 11:30, but being pastry, if people hadn't gotten desserts yet,
you're there
I would
later.
I would stay until 12:30, 1 at night, because I had to break down everything and lock up, do all the stuff for the pastry kitchen, do all the prep lists, and it got better over the months because then I started doing prep shifts and I had a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
It wasn't so rudimentary because that's where it kind of started to get just doing the line night after night. It's, it's fun for the first few weeks.
Like, it's the same thing.
Yeah. But I remember the first night after I'd finished, I had gone home and I was laying in bed and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to go back tomorrow and just plate more desserts. Like, this is great. But after doing that for a few weeks and a few months, at least until we changed the menu, it got a little rudimentary, and then you change the menu and you get a few new desserts that you get to make.
Little breath of fresh air.
Yeah, but once that sets back in, kind of you're like, okay, I want to do something else. Then it was a tough decision. It was right around Mother's Day. Yeah, because at the time I was working on our Mother's Day showpiece, which was actually a sugar flower showpiece that I did. It was the first sugar flower piece that I'd done. All the previous showpieces had done were chocolate. I was like, you know what? I want to do cakes. This is what I'm starting to fall back in interest with this.
Yeah.
I want to make this one a good one because I knew that it was going to be the last one I did. I had to tell Erin that I was going to be leaving, and she was sad, of course, but she understood my reasons for
sure.
it. She was like, yeah, I get it. I've been dreading this day for about a year now, ever since you started, but you're young. I was the same way when I was your age. You want to get out there and you want to learn and experience more,
which is understandable.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then you come back up here and you start killing it with cake.
Well, it didn't exactly start like that. So I moved back in June of 2018. I took a little leave of absence, far longer than I should have, in terms of finding a new job, just because I was trying to then at that point kind of duplicate the position I had at Blue Duck at places up here. I had looked into like Nemacolin and Woodland, and I had staged with them, and it just wasn't the same. I had first looked for their pastry like banquet kitchen, and I was like, I just don't think it's going to be the same. I just really want to follow my gut on this one. I had looked into their restaurant, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't the right fit. So I was looking at a few other places in Pittsburgh. I looked, but I really wasn't finding anything. But at that time, I was just kind of getting the groundwork done.
Yeah.
Going into wedding cakes, I was just doing, the portfolio stuff and kind of getting that backing info on all the.
For people to be able to become a business, credible.
At that point, I was building a brand. I was even just trying to like figure out what I was doing, what was my style, what was my aesthetic.
So is this just you in the kitchen, just like doing things and making cakes?
Yeah, during this time, I had taken a few workshops with Maggie Austin.
Yeah.
So she kind of plays a pretty integral role into what I've kind of become to this point. But she teaches actually like sugar flower and wedding cake workshops in DC on her own. Because she was originally, like a wedding cake studio, but she was kind of like the top tier. She was leading towards the fine art, the very high-end clients. And over the years, she just kept raising her minimum until the point where she basically wasn't doing but a handful of cakes a year because her true passion was in teaching.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I had kind of gone to her. I think I did like 4 classes at that point with her, learning all about sugar flowers and like her style of wedding cake design. And it was very in line with what I was attracted to. It was very sophisticated, elegant, detail-oriented, hyper-realistic. So she kind of like shaped what Alex Robba cake became during that time. So yeah, after I would come back, learn a bit more, and then it was just me in the kitchen making sugar flowers, doing styrofoam cake tiers.
Now, walk me through what a sugar flower, how it is made, because I have no idea.
Yeah. So sugar flowers are made from gum paste, which is, it's just a sugar dough. I'd kind of consider it to like almost like a Play-Doh, but it's very elastic. It's kind of gross, but I would almost say if you like mixed Play-Doh with chewing gum.
Is it almost like the outside of a mochi? Do you know what mochi is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would consider it. Yeah, it is kind of similar to a mochi. Maybe not that elastic.
Yeah, but kind
of just in line with that. But it's just made from egg whites, confectioner's sugar, and Tylose powder, which is like an elastic powder that you add into it, because at that point it's just an icing.
Yeah.
But it creates the elasticity that you're then able to roll it out and frill it and create these really paper thin ethereal petals, which will then dry.
Now, do you do this with your fingers, or do you have like a template that you like?
So there's a few ways, but I actually use, for the most part, I use a pasta rolling attachment for my KitchenAid mixer, and I pass it through that, and then I take like sugar flower cutters or petal cutters to create shapes.
Wow.
But then you just take a ball tool and
manipulate it through there.
Yeah, then you pull and you expand the gum paste past it, what its thinness is, till it's almost not even like a 32nd of an inch thin.
Wow.
And you just create these beautifully thin and delicate layers and petals, and it creates this beautiful texture. And
now, did you suck at this in the beginning?
I mean, there's definitely, I wouldn't say I sucked.
In a nicer way. Were you, like, your stuff now looks very great.
Yeah, I mean, I still have like the original sugar flowers that I would make like from store-bought gum paste, which is like trash compared to what homemade gum paste is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, no, those are probably like a 1/4 inch thick, and they're like hot pink, and they're not sophisticated at all. But yeah, there's definitely like a learning curve, but they
look absolutely like you said, hyper realistic. Like the one black cake you have, it's a black three or two-tiered cake. Jesus, 2-tiered cake.
Tongue twister.
And the flowers, I thought that they were real on there, and then
is it like I did a shoot back in September.
I have it screenshotted.
It was at Riverfront.
I have it screenshotted because of how insane it looked. Yeah, it was for Halloween. It was this one right here.
Yeah. So that was actually a styled wedding shoot cake I did at the Riverfront weddings.
And these are all sugar?
Yeah, those are all sugar flowers. So
Wow.
they're built on wires. So the base, the foundation for all these petals, you just insert these wires into them, and then they become a part of it. They dry into it. The flowers themselves are what I would consider decorative. They are edible, but they're not intended to be eaten.
Yeah.
I actually recommend that brides keep them as keepsakes for the wedding, because they'll never rot or decay. They might fade or collect dust, but if you protect them from, crazy fluorescent lights and dust, they'll last an eternity. I have flowers that I've made, when I was probably 10.
Wow.
They don't look like the flowers I do now, but just to like show you,
that's really cool.
They're everlasting, and it's a great selling point to clients as well.
I never thought about that. That's really cool.
Yeah, but I mean, back to the flowers. I mean, they start as a dough, and I mold and I manipulate it, and I can layer it depending on what flower I'm making.
I mean, there's 100 on there. Like, it gotta take forever.
Yeah.
So what do you do while you're making these?
Well,
Besides having a White Claw.
I usually will put on... So I'm actually a big musical theater buff. I did musical theater all throughout high school. And
That's
even
one thing I never
now.
did that I regret so much. I did so much shit. I've never once been in a play, any theater, and I want to do it so bad.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of like my other passion. If I wasn't doing wedding cakes, I probably would have went for musical theater.
That's awesome.
But I was trying to be practical about it. I was like, okay,
I'm
good. But I feel like there's far more potential for me in the wedding cake industry than there is trying to be on Broadway.
Yeah, I was curious because I look at these and there's like, probably 80 of the same ones. You have to just be sitting there very, very meticulous, just You know,
No,
it's
I'll start
interesting.
for certain cakes. I will start up to a month out.
Oh, really? That's so. I have a question. I don't really ever read notebook, like have stuff written down, but I'm curious to know like how long a cake takes to build, because like I feel like you can't do this in one day. Obviously,
No, I mean, there have definitely been extenuating circumstances
I'm sure.
with procrastination or,
Yeah.
late orders that you try and sneak a few extra dollars in.
Yeah.
That you take those last minute orders. But yeah, I mean, just for the cake, I'll start a week out. I usually start my baking and just preparing my buttercreams, my fillings on Monday. Then Tuesday, I'll do stacking and icing.
now this all keeps very well. Like if you make a cake, it keeps well in the fridge.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I don't try and do anything
Too crazy.
further out than a Monday. I'll do like the fillings and the buttercream on a Monday, then usually like the cake baking either a Monday evening or all day Tuesday.
Yeah.
Then Wednesday stacking and layering, final icing. Then Thursday I'll fondant and start decorating. Then Friday's kind of like the final decorative elements and kind of the assembly. But yeah, I mean, I try to do everything as close to the date within reason, with
Yeah.
a little kind of a cushion for things that are going to take longer than expected.
Yeah, I never understood that, and I think it's hilarious because you ever watch that Nailed It show on Netflix?
I have, yeah. I've seen a few episodes. I really can't watch most of those shows.
I bet you can't watch it because it's profession. It's like your profession, so you're like, Jesus, I can't look at this stuff. But for me, they're like, oh, make this cake that looks like the Grinch. That looks exactly like the Grinch. You got 40 minutes to do
Yeah.
it. And I die because
I mean, they're absolutely set up to fail on
Absolutely.
those shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's
But-
not actual real life circumstances or realistic in any way.
But just me being able to see how this is and like
Yeah.
what people are doing, like rolling out fondant and stuff like that, and just it's sticking on things. Like I feel that like people that like whenever I was looking at a wedding cake with my wife, we went to a cake tasting. But like I didn't like fathom what it was in my brain until like I saw our wedding cake.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. Like I saw her putting it together and putting the flowers on there and I was like, damn, like this is nuts. And then I start watching these baking shows and I'm watching people try to roll out fondant and like sculpt a leg and I'm like, damn, like this is crazy that people are this like detail oriented and talented at what this is. And I was just interested on like how long cakes take.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big thing about the industry and kind of like a lack thereof information. I would dare say almost there is, just because people, they don't understand what all goes into it. They think it's a cake. Why does it cost this much and that
Absolutely.
much? But it's so much more than that. You're paying for years of schooling and dedication and workshops, and just you're paying for someone's skill. Essentially, you're paying
Absolutely.
for their craft. But I mean, the flowers, they take an exuberant amount of time.
Yeah, they have to.
Most wedding cakes are at least a week's worth of sugar flower work
Wow.
alone.
Yeah.
That'll usually
Not
try
even
and
on
start
top
at, like,
of
2
everything
weeks,
else.
Yeah.
Now how are you coloring these things?
So it starts as a dough, but within 24 hours they dry and they'll be rock solid. I mean, they're very fragile at that point,
Yeah.
but they're completely devoid of any moisture, so they don't bend anymore. They'll shatter if they are hit too hard or anything, but they make edible color dusts that are basically kind of like you can turn them into a paint, but I actually dry dust. That's in the industry, kind of like the standard. You dry dust all the color onto the flowers, so you can actually dye the gum paste to begin with as like a baseline color. But then
okay.
after it's dried and everything, you go back with additional colors for highlight, depth, shadow, and just kind of to
Wow.
accentuate them. Then you can even create like edible paints if you add like a little bit of vodka to the color dusts.
Really?
And do like really precise details like on certain tropical flowers, like orchids have a lot of like really hyper
Oh, that's true.
detailed.
Yeah. Now that cake that you have all the shapes on,
Yeah.
you have like them sharp lines. Is that like an example of where you would make like a paint type?
Not so much. That specific cake, I dyed all of the tiles, or I did a mixture of fondant and gum paste, so it would dry semi-hard, but since it was directly on the cake, I have a rule that if it's directly on the cake, it can't be gum paste if it's not a flower, just because then it's not a pleasant eating experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, for for that cake, I just dyed some of them black, some were like a creamy tone. I think the palette for that was like gold, slate gray, black, white, very Gatsby inspired. But then a lot of them, I marbled some of them, and some of them actually had edible gold leaf that I applied onto all of the
That's what I thought it was. I thought that gold was like a paint that you made.
Some of it was painted on. Like
that's really cool.
Like the 3-dimensional pieces were painted, but the tiles that were directly on the cake were edible gold leaf. Yeah.
Huh. That's pretty interesting. Now, whenever I mean, that's a whole nother thing. It's like, people see your cakes and like, it's one thing to make the shape of the petal, but to like paint all these as well. It's like, it's crazy to like get into all that.
Yeah. And then, on like that cake that you were talking about, the black cake that had probably like 100 to 150 small blossoms.
Yeah.
Just because it was a spray of flowers, but each one is still individually colored and dusted.
That's why I thought that was real. I was like, oh, those are real flowers. But and then I'm looking, I'm like, wow, that's got to be sugar, I guess. Now, whenever you're making these, one thing that blew my mind whenever we were shopping for our wedding cake, I asked the lady, I was like, how do you get all these pieces just out of this cake? And she was like, no, we use sheet cakes in the back.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God. It made my mind melt.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's smart. So we were actually able to we had a toasted almond raspberry cake.
Okay.
And then we also had a sheet of it was like a Kahlua or chocolate ganch. Is that how you say it? Ganch?
Ganch.
It's almost like a chocolate like fudge icing.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
I mean, I've heard of like gobs, but that's something different.
No, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but
ganache. Yeah, I've heard of ganache.
That might be it. Yeah, that's it. That's to show everyone that I'm very authentic. But yeah, we were able to have 2 different flavors because like I didn't even think about there being a tray in the back.
Yeah, I mean that's how I do most of my cakes, just because from a cost standpoint, it's a lot more economical to serve the majority of your guests from sheet cakes.
Oh yeah,
and for your decorated cake, you just I'll do like one real tier for the couple to cut and maybe supplemental servings if they need them past the sheet cake. But it's also beneficial on my part just from decoration standpoint because I don't have to worry about keeping the cake chilled or that there's a cake underneath it and I can't be putting all these wires and stuff.
People didn't even eat our cake. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was delicious, but I feel like in most weddings, people don't eat the cake.
Yeah.
And people, numerous people told us that in the beginning, like, people aren't going to eat your cake. And you're like, dude, they're definitely going to eat it. And you're like, no, they're half drunk and they're full from dinner.
Yeah.
People aren't even going to remember cake is there. So we had I bet you maybe 10 pieces were taken.
Yeah.
And all the rest of it, we had it and we were just eating it for months after. We'd just freeze it and take a couple pieces out every once in a while.
Yeah, that's the first thing I tell clients, how many are you expecting? But,
cut it in half.
I would not try to supplement servings to any more than the exact number, and even still, you're probably gonna have you're always gonna have leftover cake.
Absolutely,
especially in the Pittsburgh market. Just because
cookies,
the cookie tables,
yeah, that's insane. The cookie tables, we had a cookie table that was it was like a room. I guarantee if we had a table that was this big, we had cookies that would fit like this entire half of this room.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And how do you expect people to go and eat the rest of this stuff that you have? We had so much food at our wedding. It was nuts. Now, you said that you assemble a lot of them at the venues.
Yeah.
So you get to go see all these different places. Now, have you ever had any mishaps with cakes while assembling them? Where obviously you had to have had stuff happen where you had to improvise and, make it work.
Yeah, recently not so much, just because at this point I know what I need to do to have a successful delivery, and I take all the necessary precautions.
How many cakes do you think you've made, and how many jobs have you had? Wedding cakes, do you think?
Are we talking like since I've began or like professionally?
Do both.
Okay, I would say, gosh, I'm just gonna go with the wedding cakes. But are we like talking paying clients or like styled shoots?
Yeah,
too?
paying clients.
Okay, paying clients. I really haven't had that many, to be quite honest. I mean, I've had my handful.
Yeah.
But just because I'm a new business, I'm starting out, and this past year has just kind of been.
Well, you said styled shoots. Those are still.
They're still wedding cakes.
Yeah, still wedding cakes. So all these together, like, I mean, are you in 50s? Are you in?
I'm probably in like 20s at this point.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what I would consider like true wedding cakes.
Okay, I respect that.
Because there's plenty of...
You probably made 100 in the past.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of cakes that I've made just for me to photograph and then disassemble and just use for portfolio work. But if I'm just thinking like styled shoots that could have definitely been...
I mean, 25 times, that's like, it's 25 weeks of you creating things. So that's a good, I mean, you got a good feel of what you need to do and what needs to happen with it.
Yeah,
right?
and that's just wedding cakes. So I'm talking like just cakes off the bat, I'd say $250.
Wow. Jeez. I think I've made probably like 4 cakes in my life. Maybe 4. I like a poke cake. You ever have a poke cake?
I have not.
It's a cake. It's like a flat.
Oh, a poke cake. I thought you said a pope cake.
No, poke cake. A pope cake. Yeah.
I was like, I've heard of princess cake, but I've never heard of pope cake.
I didn't even make a joke about it, but yeah. I mean, that's pretty interesting. Like, and I feel like I said, I feel that a lot of people don't understand the work that goes into it. That's why, like, I wanted to have you on and kind of like talk to you about what. Kind of like how the process is made of it. And now you have your business now. How do you go about getting your name and marketing yourself out there? Being like a new cake maker.
Yeah.
Do you rely off a portfolio mainly?
Yeah, I mean, social media has been my bread and butter. Honestly, I'm actually like really fortunate to be where I am at this point because. It was probably just, the beginning of like last year, like last February or so is when I really tried to start hitting social media hard. Instagram, get a website up, Facebook. But yeah, Instagram has been basically the beginning of all my exposure networking. I did one styled shoot professionally with a florist had reached out to me and was like, hey, where are you located? Your cakes are gorgeous. I'd love to do a collab, like a styled shoot with you. I'm working on one in a few months. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Of course I'd love to do that. But yeah, I mean, just honestly from that, it was word of mouth from one planner to the next. And it's brought me into contact with some of the best planners in Pittsburgh at the moment.
That's awesome.
All that exposure has just been either from word of mouth or from a prior project I've been working on. But now it's, for me, a lot of my exposure comes from planners actually, because they refer me to their clients because the clients are usually the first person they're going to look towards is their wedding planner if they're going to have one.
Yeah, and they refer.
Yeah, from there it's all the references, and usually the cake is the last thing that they're going to be booking.
Yeah, I think whenever we did ours, I think we just found it on social media. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's like it's a blessing for anyone that wants to start a business now. Yeah. I mean, Instagram is the most important business tool that you could have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, especially for someone that is doing like something that is so aesthetically pleasing. Like, great photos are perfect.
Yeah, getting just the content and showing people what I'm doing, what it is, and the product that I'm providing.
Yeah,
and getting them to understand that is crucial to what I can do because I don't have a storefront. I'm not a bakery. I don't have a stationary location.
Yeah.
So my business is very much just me and the idea behind it.
Yeah.
So Instagram is great in that regard. So I can show people what that is and kind of fabricate
Absolutely.
that whole idea to them.
Do you ever have people helping you with anything? Or are you kind of like I feel like you might be kind of a control freak a little bit.
How would you guess that? No one's ever called me a control freak before.
I'm a super big control freak, so
just a little bit. Yeah, my grandma and my mom actually refused to work with me in the kitchen.
That's the best.
Because, I tend to yell orders.
Your grandma is still around?
Yes, I'm very fortunate to have her. I actually just did her wedding cake, or not her wedding cake. She's been happily married. Her birthday cake was on December 28th.
Really?
Yeah, so I just did her
How old?
Birthday cake. Oh, gosh. I should know this. Right. I want to say 73.
Wow, that's great.
But,
now, what is, for her being like someone that, she obviously seen you from the beginning to the products that you're putting out now. Like what is like your family's response to it all?
Oh, it stresses her out. I don't have anxiety. I mean, I would say I have some anxiety.
Creative anxiety.
Yeah. I don't get anxious about things being done or that I'm running out of time. Because I don't have time to do that, I just do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's not enough time to
Yeah,
stress
in
out.
experience, you know how much time you need to get things done.
And even when I'm running behind, I'm like, I don't have time to stress. I just have to make it happen. I just have to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, she tries to stay away from all of that stuff until she sees the end product. When I text her all the photos, she's like, "Oh, that's so beautiful. That made me cry. I love that so much."
That's awesome.
But I usually just don't tell her when I have orders, so or else she'll be all worried, or she'll be praying for me. So that's always good to have. But no, I mean, I always had. When I was starting out, she would help me when I would do some orders if they're, for her through the church, because I had lots of older church lady clientele when I was 10, 12 for all those fun church events.
The cute
potlucks.
kid makes nice baked goods.
Yeah, very that.
That's funny.
Yeah, and her thing was she was always yelling at me because I was always trying to go over the top and be so fancy. And she's like, "Why can't you just do something simple? You know, these people don't deserve all this fancy work that you're doing." Like last year, she asked me to do another church event for her, and it was like a donation cake just for like their auction. And it was just a 1-tiered cake, but it was like this ombre, like very light green fondant frills, and had one single sugar flower white rose on it. And she came to my house to pick it up. She's like, "Why do you go through all this work? I'm not taking it to them." So I was like, it wasn't that much work, at that time I was building my portfolio. So I was like, this is beneficial for me. If I was just, making you a cake, I wouldn't have went all this way out for it. But then she ended up not even taking it into the church because she was like, "They don't deserve this. We're keeping this."
That's so funny.
Yes. Then we ended up taking it to our ski trip that winter.
That's nice though.
Yeah. But I mean, I definitely still have plenty of support, even if it is just me being my own business. I have a lot of good people in my life who help me at the expense of me not paying them. Yeah. I shouldn't say that. I always pay them in my love, and usually a drink after a delivery.
Yeah.
After a stressful one. But I have a really good friend who comes with me. She's kind of like my day of go-to help, because when you're going into a delivery,
always need an extra set of hands.
Yeah, and it's very stressful. If you don't know the venue, trying to load in, that's always a whole beast of its own. And if you're delivering a 3, 4, 5-tiered cake by yourself, you need someone to help you with that.
Now, whenever you get to a venue and you put this together, like on average, how long does it take to put something together for it to be done?
I try to do as much as I can ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like now, I currently will stack as much as I can to my ability of the cake just in my controlled kitchen, because you don't know what the situation is at the venue. Are you going to have like an adequate place where you're able to set up and kind of troubleshoot if something there were a mishap? So I just would rather kind of take that challenge of having to deliver a more assembled, more delicate cake than kind of be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna take all the pieces separately and kind of just do it all there." Yeah, I'll usually hold off on some of the flower assemblage, or at least the placement, until I'm at the venue, just because, for moving in of the car, up how many elevators and stairways.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about all that.
Yeah, things can be pretty tight in those corners, and that kind of stuff I like to hold off to. But yeah, I mean, all the decorative work is done before we even leave for deliveries.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I feel like you got a good run going with everything.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay ahead of it. I consider myself I try to kind of put on a facade that I know what I'm doing, and that I
fake it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's all right. So many people have to do it.
Yeah, I'd very much consider myself just a very reactive person.
That's good. You work well under pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do as much as I can ahead of time and kind of be prepared for the situation, but I'm also quite skilled in being able to be on the nose about the situations if there is a mishap or something unexpected happens.
That's good.
Yeah, like the one cake I did, the geometric two-tiered square cake with all the gold leafing and the like Art Deco theme.
Yeah.
I had actually forgotten funny story. I had 3 deliveries that day while I was also flying out from Pittsburgh airport to California that same day.
Oh my God.
So, overbooked to the T, but I was like, you know what? I can push it. I'm trying to make a late season income. So I had a bridal shower cake order that morning in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Yeah.
It was a smaller delivery and it went through fine. Then on the way to the airport, I had to drop off a styled wedding shoot cake for like a week later that I couldn't be present for.
What kind of vehicle do you have?
I have a Honda Civic.
How do you fit all these in there?
Well, I don't. That's where my friend comes in handy because she has a mid-sized vehicle. She has like an SUV.
Yeah.
So
You just fit some more in there.
Yeah, just load everything into there, tip her out for the gas mileage.
That's nice.
Yeah, but then I had a wedding cake delivery too at the Omni Pen downtown. But trying to load everything into the car while also loading our luggage because we didn't have time to go back home because, we're an hour and a half outside of Pittsburgh. But I'd forgotten my toolkit. She was like, oh, make sure on your way back on your last round through you get your tool stuff. And I'd left it on the counter. And I had like a few last minute details that I was supposed to put on the cake. Some like gold leafing, just like not so much elements that didn't end up being on it, but just kind of
like extra embellishment.
Yeah, extra embellishment and just the precautionary measures that I needed, extra stuff in case something should go wrong.
Yeah.
But then we got to the location. I was like, okay, I need my toolbox. And I was like, where is it? And it was like, I told you to get it. I was like, I didn't get it. Didn't you get it?
Oh, man.
It's like, well, let's make sure we don't drop it down the stairwell into the venue space because there's no going back at this point. Yeah, it ended up working out fine. We made it work. No one was the wiser, and it looked fine in the end. They were a really happy couple. I was happy. It was one of the happier cakes I had. Not that I'm not happy with most of them, but just because I was...
Has anyone been unhappy with the cake you made?
Somewhat, not so much the cake, but the price. It was a long time ago. I was probably 12 at this point. It was like
12.
It was like an extended family member.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But it was like a bridal shower cake, and I was still younger at this point, so it was like, I think her perception was he's just doing this for fun. I'm not going to have to pay him a lot, but we'd gotten to my mom was with me delivering because I was 12, can't really drive at that point.
The muscle.
Yeah, she was the muscle. And she had like typed up an invoice, made it look all professional for me because she used to do that stuff. She gave it to her, and apparently she was all upset because I was charging like $150 for this cake, which nowadays I would have charged 3 times what I was charging then, but that was the only thing, and it was a non-issue.
People always have it's amazing that people could put a price on someone else's artwork, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Especially something like that. Like, my wedding cake costs like some amount of money, and like, who the hell am I to say, it should be less. Like, the shit looks insane. Like, I see it. If I tried to bake a cupcake, like it's worth it to just have someone great professional do it. Pay the money. Why not? That's their job. That's what they've given their life to.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a price point. There's a baker for everyone. I mean,
everyone.
There's no set standard or industry standard.
But you have to be realistic
pricing.
with what you want.
Yeah, you just have to know what your budget is and what you can feasibly afford, and just be realistic about it.
Yeah.
I only do 1, 2, 3 cakes a month max. And that's a month's worth of income if that's my only cake. And I think when people start seeing it more as a custom-made art piece for them that is supposed to kind of fabricate and replicate and show a depiction of what their relationship is in accordance with their wedding, it's about them. It should show their aesthetic, their relationship, and how far they've come together, and kind of be like a memoriam for where they're about to go together in a union with one another. And I don't really think that that's something that you can say that should only cost X amount of dollars, because
I'm making
that specifically for you and tailoring it to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's always
There's always
people.
someone.
There's always someone.
That's well, hopefully, I hope that this conversation would shed some light on some people with kind of give everyone a peek inside, a cake maker's mind, a professional cake maker's mind. All right, so I don't know. I'm trying to think I don't know if there's anything else I wanted to ask, but can I get into the ending segment?
Going, yeah, whatever you got.
So the ending segment that I do with all my guests is a segment called Desert Island Questions. Desert Island Questions is a segment where I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island to exhaust until their demise. So I'm going to give you the 3 questions that I give everyone, but I'm also going to give you a couple extra.
Great.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So the first category is 3 things to watch on a desert island. Now, whenever I say 3 things to watch, it could be anything, TV series, movie series, anything you want, but you get 3 choices.
Do I get like musical performances, like live
Sure.
performances?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty vast. I'll do TV series first and foremost. Golden Girls.
Okay.
Gotta have that. It's my morning show.
That has not been the first time I think the Golden Girls has probably picked maybe 5 times so far.
It's timeless.
Yeah.
I
have never, I'll be honest, I've only watched probably 1 episode. My wife has been trying to get me to dive into it. And the one that I watched was funny for sure. I just need to take the time to watch it. There's just so much good shit to watch nowadays.
It's such good content. And it was so ahead of its times. I actually started watching the Golden Girls with my grandma.
Yeah.
While waiting for me to board the bus because I would go to her house in the morning. But then, we'd just watch the Golden Girls together. Now I watch it. Now I watch it when I'm doing cakes. What else? TV shows. I think another TV show I would do would be like trash TV, probably South Park.
Oh, that's good.
That's my other cake baking show.
South Park and Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Those are good.
Good diverse mix there.
Yeah, that's good.
Should probably throw some culture in there. Something.
One more choice.
Okay, I'll go with my gut. I'm gonna go with Sound of Music, the movie.
Okay.
I love that movie since I was a child. I watched it 1,000 times, and I just love it. I love the music. I love Julie Andrews.
Kate Calusi. Are you familiar with Highway Robbery?
I've heard of it.
In the South Side. It's a vintage place, but she was just on the other day, and that's something she chose. And
Really?
I've never seen it. And
You haven't?
in my younger years, I've never seen it. Like it was just something. I had a weird upbringing. I started out with, Disney movies, but my brother was 6 years older than me. I had a cousin that was 7 or 8 years older than me, and my cousin's parents ran a VHS store.
Uh-huh.
So I was watching films.
Yeah.
Like adult. I just never got the Sound of Music. I need to watch it though.
No, it's a classic.
Everyone said, I know it's great, and And she told me, she was like, you need to watch it.
Yeah,
so.
it's got everything. It's got, Nazis and nuns.
That's what she said. That's literally what she said. She was like, oh, it's fantastic. It's got everything. And I was like, is there Nazis? She was like, there's Nazis, there's nuns, there's all kinds of stuff. And I was like, all right, so I'll watch that. Those are 3 great choices, though. Those kind of touch on all of the moods. You got funny, you got some, some feeling.
Too funny. I guess Golden Girls kind of encompasses a little bit of everything. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, South Park, you got current events and funny.
Controversy.
Yeah, controversy. Anything that's happened in the world of relevance, you're going to learn about.
Yeah.
All right, so the second category is, do you read?
Yes, I read lots of cookbooks. I love instructional books,
Okay.
and at this point I don't have a lot of time to do leisurely.
Do you have 3 cookbooks that you would take with you on a desert island?
I don't know. I have probably 3 books that apply to cakes just in some facet.
Okay.
I would choose Maggie Austin, Artistry and Technique. She wrote a book. An instructional book for sugar flowers and cake design. It's very informative.
Yeah.
Has great photography. I use it a lot as a reference point. And it gets me inspired.
That's good.
What else would I choose? I would choose So Good Recipes, the full collection. So Good is actually a magazine, but they have volumes, like one through, I think they're probably at like 20 or something now.
Yeah.
Then they have just a recipe book that's allocated to all the recipes that are used in each volume. So you can skip all the
fluff,
and you can just get to the nitty gritty professional recipes. And I used it a lot professionally, and I still use it now if I'm searching for something. For a cake or whatever, but it's really good quality.
All right.
And I hate Pinterest in that regard. I love Pinterest, but I also can't stand it with all of my life. It's great for inspiration, but if you're like on Pinterest for a recipe, you have to go through, read a novel about someone's life story. And, Karen was recently divorced, and on this sunny day, just, the end of
that's so true.
Autumn, she went on this fall walk and was inspired by the fall foliage.
Me and my wife will be walking through Giant Eagle, look, and she'll just be scrolling through Pinterest, looking at a recipe, and she's like, "I don't give a shit. I just want to know what I need to buy."
Yeah,
that's funny.
So that's Pinterest's greatest downfall.
All right,
people's shit that I don't care about. I want to hear the recipe. That's it. Then third, what would I choose? I would probably choose kind of a recipe book, but it's called the Flower Recipe Book. It's basically like a floral and fauna arrangement book that kind of teaches you about different varietals and this plus this equals this arrangement, and just kind of gives you just like a 1, 2 plus 3 expo for florists to how to create certain arrangements. But I love it for cake inspiration and just kind of getting a knowledge and background info for the floral information and just inspiration.
That would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, even in my own art, I don't consider myself a botanically correct artist.
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff is very realistic, but I'm not limited by trying to create a botanically correct rose or whatnot. So I just kind of use those sources as inspiration and kind of exposure to things that aren't directly in line with wedding cakes, but I can greatly benefit from them.
Yeah.
And it just has quality photography, and I could, spend a few dying days
just looking at it.
Yeah. If I had to, die on a desert island, I'd rather do it in company of good photography and quality information. I
could appreciate that. All right. So before we get to the last category, I'm going to throw in a bonus category. I'm going to make you, this is going to be funny. Do you like sweets? Are you a sweets guy?
I'll eat sweets, but I'm more, I'm going to pick savory 9 times out of 10 before sweets.
Well, humor me. If you had to pick 3 Little Debbies, what would you like?
Oh God.
Because I mean, I feel like that is the exact opposite of what it is, because you obviously are professional at it.
Yeah.
You have a certain aspect, but if you had to pick 3 Little Debbies, what would they be?
I honestly don't eat a ton. I try not to eat a ton of Little Debbies, and I honestly hate cake.
Yeah. Do you?
I hate cake.
What's your favorite dessert?
Favorite dessert? Probably a Meyer lemon tart. I love citrus.
Yeah.
I'll eat my cake. I'll eat cake. I'm not like.
But it's not your it's not my first choice.
It's not my favorite thing. It's like vanilla,
Yeah, that makes sense.
It is what it is.
Okay.
Trying to think. Does Little Debbie's, do they make the cosmic brownies?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Those are number one. Those
right.
are great. But the Christmas tree ones with the multicolored
sprinkles,
those
were great.
Those are the best ones.
Okay. All right, I'll allow that. That's a good answer. I'm satisfied with that answer. I'd never liked cosmic brownies ever.
Really?
I'm the only portly fellow in the world that doesn't like cosmic brownies. I'll eat a whole box of the Christmas trees though without even blinking.
Oh, they're so good. I guess I could do a number 2. Probably the oatmeal cream
pies.
Yeah,
those are real good too.
Those are my dad's favorite. I'll eat them just if we have them in the house. I'm like, I'm feeling.
I love the fudge rounds. The fudge rounds are the shit. And I mean, ding dong. I mean, they're all. I mean,
I've never had either of those.
Oh, a fudge round, it'll change your life. All right. Third category is 3 things to listen to. So you could pick CDs, you could pick musicals, you could pick whatever you want.
Okay. Like single songs, or can I pick an album?
An album.
An album. Okay. I'm trying to think. Something Lady Gaga.
My wife is the biggest.
Love Gaga with all of my heart.
I I never showed respect before because I just didn't know about her. But being married to my wife and being a very big fanatic of herself, I became a big fan.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm down to her learning about her makeup and shit like that because my wife does the makeup. She just came out with house makeup.
Yeah.
And I learn about. I like Lady Gaga. I'm a big Lady Gaga fan.
No, God is a Gaga. In my personal opinion.
Yeah.
That's gonna be hard. I'm just gonna say Fame Monster.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I think my wife's was Art Pop.
Art Pop's another good one.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong with any of them.
Yeah,
but
they're honestly all great because, like I said, I never listened to that much before, but like just watching all the videos and like seeing her creativity and like, I mean, you can't even do nothing with it. It's incredible. She went to Vegas to see her at her residency, and she said it was insane.
I wanted to go so badly, and I was like, okay, can I do it this year? I probably could, but I just splurged and went to California, so I probably need to be
she's just about to sign another deal to extend it.
That's what I thought. I thought she was going to extend that.
I would love to go see it. I really would. Did you? I thought she was fantastic in A Star Is Born.
Oh,
too.
she was so good.
I just cried at the end. It was just
yeah. The whole movie was just like 2 hours of like sobbing relentlessly.
Because as soon as she was singing in the alleyway in the beginning, my wife just started crying in the movie theater, and I was like, damn, like that's like. I don't know. It just gives me chills just because like I know how much she loves her, and like to see a quality movie like that, and it was just fantastic. Really, really great.
Okay, 2 more. I think I'll go with a musical. I think I'll have to go with. Oh, that's hard. I like a lot of shows. If I'm going with something modern, I'd probably do Hadestown. It's a new musical.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
It's kind of like a modern take on like it's based on like Greek mythology, but in like a post-apocalyptic world.
Okay.
But it like tells the story of like Hades and a bunch of I don't know all of the gods. I'll be honest, but it's such good music. It's like kind of like folky, like a little bit indie.
I like that.
Modern.
I probably like that.
It's really quality. They actually just won a Tony for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Super good show. Super great music.
Do you go see a lot of performances?
Yeah, I try to. I haven't been to New York in a year.
I've only been to one. I've been to the Nutcracker whenever I was younger. I hated that.
Oh, I love the Nutcracker.
I hated it because I didn't appreciate it. It was like whenever I was in like 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit about that. But I went to go see, in 7th grade, I went to go see Phantom of the Opera, and I was encapsulated by it.
Yeah.
I thought it was incredible. And I would definitely want to go see more things. I just don't know too much about them. You know who Mark Maron is? Mark Maron is he has a podcast. He's a comedian. He's had a podcast for a long time, but he talks to like huge stars, Sharon Stone. He just had Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio on. But all these people, all these big name actors talk about all the plays that they're in and like all the, the Broadway that they're in. And I'm like, God, like why, like I want to go see this. Like I want to go see these plays about everything. And they all sound so interesting, but I just don't know about them. And I feel like that's something I could definitely get into. My brother and his wife go to a good bit of things, but I need to, that's one thing on my list of shit to do this year. So I want to go see some more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff even just in Pittsburgh. They have such really good theater in this region. Okay, number 3, that's tough. I'd go with Mumford and Sons Babel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were thinking of a musical or if you were going to come out maybe with an album. That's good, though.
No, I love their music. That was like, they were always my go-to. Like
so you like folky? Yeah,
I love folky, like indie, kind of modern, but kind of, I don't know. I kind of like a lot of music. I would say I like more music than I dislike, but yeah, I like more folky, kind of.
That's good.
Really feel good music.
All right.
I like the lyricism of it.
Yeah.
They have such good music. I would always listen to it on my drive home from DC to Maryland after work.
I love their music video of all the celebrities. Did you ever see their music video of like?
I don't think I have.
They have a music video where do you know who what the hell is his real name? Ed Helms, Andy Bernard from The Office.
Yeah.
there's like multiple people in this Mumford and Sons video,
Yeah.
but it's all celebrities playing these instruments, but it's Mumford and Sons music.
Okay.
But it's just a funny take on a video, and it's just like they're playing the banjo and shit like that, and it's a pretty cool video. But those are good choices. I feel like you got a wide variety there.
Yeah, try to keep it somewhat varietal.
That's good. Second to last question that I ask everyone is the death row meal. So you could have any kind of food you want from wherever you want, as much as you want.
Like one option and excess
No.
quantity.
Have you ever read like them like real messed up articles that are like, oh, people were put on death row like before you die?
Yeah, I've heard a few.
Whatever like that. So
Yeah.
like anything you would want to eat.
If I was gonna eat, I'd probably have like no inhibition at that point. Or if I was about to die.
Yeah, you could eat as much trash as you want.
Yeah, so I'm not even gonna go like luxury with it. I'm gonna go trashy as hell.
Yeah.
Gonna go Taco Bell. I'm gonna get
real
the
good.
Chipotle chicken loaded griller because they don't make it anymore. They took it off the menu.
What is it? Chipotle chicken loaded griller.
Yeah, it was my favorite thing. They took it off this past fall.
I don't know if I've ever had that.
I threw a fit about it. Like, I was texting all my friends' group messages and like, oh my god, they took off the loaded griller. It was my favorite thing. Like, oh my god, you're still on this. I'd get that. A beefy 5-layer burrito.
I love those.
Those are so good.
Yeah.
It's like my standard.
Yeah, those are real good.
Like probably like a shredded chicken quesarito.
That's good too. I just love the soft tacos. Give me a party pack. I'll rip them
Oh,
down.
those were like my favorite thing when I was like 4 or 5. Just wanted soft tacos.
Now you're just gonna have Taco Bell for your death row. You don't have nothing else that you would want to have on top of that.
On top of Taco Bell, no, I gotta have dessert.
Yeah,
I still
yeah.
make cake. What dessert would I want? Probably like a 3-pound bag of Sour Patch Kids.
Oh, I love a Sour Patch Kid.
I love sour.
I love Sour Patch watermelons the most, though.
They're not my favorite. I do like them, but the blue ones are by far easily my favorite.
I think the only reason that I prefer watermelons over the regular Sour Patches is because I only like red, blue. I don't really like. I'll eat an orange, but I don't like the green or the yellow at all.
I don't
want
like the
nothing.
red ones because they just taste like Swedish fish with a sour coating. And I don't like Swedish fish.
That's true.
But I'm pretty sure it's the same company, so I'm pretty sure it's just Swedish
Probably the
fish
same
with
thing.
citric acid.
It probably is. They're double dipping.
Yeah.
That's what Kit Kat does. That's what That's what Kit Kat fills its inside of the Kit Kats with is broken pieces of Kit Kats. They just blend it up and
I did not know that.
they layer it in between the wafer. It blew my mind whenever I heard about it.
That's smart on their part.
Real smart. That's real smart.
Resourcing their excess product.
Do you know what the mystery flavor of Dum Dums are?
No.
It's after they make all their batches. It's all the flavors together. That's how they like clean their tanks pretty much. It's everything is put together and that becomes the mystery flavor. Now that brings me to the question, do they put like butterscotch in there?
I was going to say, because then they have like chocolate and butterscotch.
They have
and, like,
butterscotch, root beer. I feel like that wouldn't mend well with like watermelon and all that other stuff. But
I mean, most of those fruits would be fine together, but once you throw in those other ones,
I don't know. None of them even taste like fruit anyway. It's just like sugar.
Yeah.
It's just a different shade of sugar. That's all it is. All right. So the last question that I ask everyone is: if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's hard. I think I'm going to have to kick it back to like childhood obsession and probably go with Julie Andrews.
Okay.
Yeah, she was.
That's a good answer.
Maria in Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Mary Poppins.
Never seen Mary Poppins.
You've never what? Those are like my two go-to. That
Terrible.
Mary Poppins, Sound of Music, and Wizard of Oz were my 3 favorite movies when I was growing up.
I loved Wizard of Oz, but I don't know why I never saw Mary Poppins or. I've watched Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I feel like that's kind of in the same vein, but
it's.
I never watched Mary Poppins. I would like to see the new one though.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's good
I would
as like
still.
a standalone.
I'd still watch the old one, but I'm gonna watch Sound of Music very soon. I really am.
Now that we're all
beating it on my head about it. All right, well, listen. Oh, can we try one of these on air?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Alex has brought me cake, and what do we have here in this box?
So I brought you some 2 contrasting flavors. So I brought you a citrus cake.
Can I open this?
Yeah, go for it. So the yellow is a citrus cake that has a blueberry preserve. And that's the filling.
Hold on, let me pull this microphone out so we could do this the right way.
Yeah, so it's a citrus cake, has blueberry preserves, and then it is iced with a lavender blueberry buttercream.
Okay. Now point to the one that you just described.
Be that guy.
This one?
Yeah, the yellow one.
Okay.
It's just two different flavors.
Are you going to eat one of these?
I'm good. I know what it tastes like.
Wait.
I have to keep to my healthy New Year's
There we go.
resolution.
Okay. Hold on. Jeez. It's really good. It's really good.
Good?
I love that it's not over sweet.
No, I hate overly sweet
That's
desserts.
the worst. It ruins it for anyone. I mean, unless it's a Little Debbie Christmas tree, but that's really, really good. I like that.
What kind of like flavor profiles do you like in your desserts?
I do like citrus, but I like citrus. I don't like citrus and chocolate really.
Yeah.
I like the only type of citrus and chocolate I like is like a chocolate with like an orange.
Yeah.
But other than that, I love like raspberries.
Mm-hmm.
I love fruity with it. But as far as like I'm a vanilla guy, I'm a chocolate guy.
Uh-huh.
I'm not the biggest lemon. Like I'm not the biggest lemon guy. As far as like other things, like I like. I mean, if I chose anything, flavor, chocolate. If I chose like a pair with that, it would be like a buttercream, just a regular buttercream on top of that. But other than that, I mean, like I'm really not picky.
Mm-hmm.
I try to my entire life coming up, I never like cared about details of things. So like now I sit there and like I'll go to restaurants and like I'll try to like take my time and like try to taste things and try to like see what's different, see what sets that apart from something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, okay, so what's the other ones in here?
So the next one is chocolate. So it's a double chocolate cake, and it has
Right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
a Bailey's Irish Cremant
Yeah.
filling.
See, I'm gonna love this because I love Bailey's.
Yeah, and it has a salted cocoa buttercream.
Okay, here we go. I mean, the first one was great. I would pick that chocolate all day.
Oh yeah, everyone goes for the chocolate.
I have to chew it without being on the microphone. Wow. And again, it's not too sweet at all. I don't know. I like I said, I like both. I just always rely more on like chocolate. I hate butterscotch though, but like I like buttercream.
Yeah.
I like Bailey's. I don't know. It's weird. I think it's all situational, really.
Yeah, I mean, I like butterscotch, but I hate caramel.
Yeah. I think I'm. It's all weird. I feel like that now my palate is changing again because I used to hate peanut butter. Not hate it, but I used to dislike peanut butter. Like I would never pick up a Reese's cup whenever I was younger, but like I love them now.
Yeah.
I love peanut butter. But it's always just chocolate. Even with my coffee. Are you a coffee guy?
Yeah, I am.
So I enjoy coffee very much. As far as like flavor notes with coffee, I feel like, you know, I don't like anything fruit really.
Yeah.
I like it more of like a chocolatey finish. And I don't know if there's a better way to like describe that or if I even know the terminology, but I like that right there. Those are both great.
Good.
Is those are the only two flavors in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
I try to keep it simple. Like
Yeah.
when I do a tasting, I'll prepare like 5 for clients, but I have like a whole tasting menu that has like 12 or 14 different
And do
flavor
people-
compositions.
People just like say like, oh, they'll pick a few for you to
yeah,
bring
I'll
like
tell
that?
them, you know, you can choose up to 5. If you have any requests, I'll try to accommodate. Like,
Now, what do you do when you make these little bite-sized guys? Like, how big of a batch do you make of things?
so for these, I usually just start from a whole half sheet cake,
Oh, okay.
and then I'll just cut out rounds.
Yeah, because like visually, you brought me these cakes and like they look very, very like, you know, what's the word to describe them? Like it's professional.
Yeah, they're like little petite tasting cakes.
Yeah, they're perfect bite size. You know, right in, and they just like you could tell everything looks great with it.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably more tedious than most full-size cakes, honestly.
But I mean, they have to be right because that's what's going to get you the job. Mm-hmm. So you got to be. They got
I
to be
think,
right.
you know, putting in the extra effort and putting in the effort to impress people goes a long way.
Absolutely. I wish I'd have took a picture of it before I ate some of them, but I'm going to take a picture after I ate them.
Spread them out. You got more?
I really appreciate you coming over and talking to me.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out.
What's your thought of being on a podcast of your first time?
I thought it was a positive experience.
It was great on my end. I loved it.
Good. Yeah. I feel like I like to talk in circles a lot because I always have like 12,000 things going on in my head at one time.
That's
I'm
all right.
like, just constantly thinking.
That's where I come in. I feel that's where I feel like I'm driving the car and people that I'm interviewing are just sitting shotgun, and I'm kind of steering it where it needs to go.
Yeah.
'Cause some people could just be stuck looking out the window for a while, but I kind of bring them back. But take any time, promote anything, promote your website, Instagram, everything.
Yeah. So I'm just on Instagram at Alex Robba Cake, ALEXROBBA Cake. That's also my website, www.alexrobacake.com. I'm on Facebook as well, Alex Robba Cake. It's all the same across the board. But if you want to see most of my content, I would just go through Instagram, and all my website and everything is linked through there. So
And you're booking for 2020?
I am booking for 2020, starting to book for 2021 too.
All right. Anyone that's getting married, I know there's so many people getting married. I went to like probably 10 weddings last year.
Yeah, there's always a wedding in Pittsburgh.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Great for that.
If anyone's getting married, hit up Alex. The cake is very delicious, and you could tell his work is a reflection of his passion. Everyone else that's listening, I appreciate it as usual. This is episode 100. 100 episodes. We're here, and we're just gonna kill them all and keep moving. But find the website. I'll call you right back.com. I'll call you right back on Instagram. I'll call you right back across the boards. It's 100 episodes. I have taken no breaks. Please just go subscribe. Throw me a rate and a review. I would appreciate that very much. I have a ridiculous lineup coming up for January and February, and I'm very excited for everyone to figure out who they are. Thanks again, and I'll call you right back.